Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of BBCon 2012. We're outside Washington, D.C. at the Gaylord Convention Center. With me now are Amy Spencer and Kevin Russell. Amy is Market Manager for Arts and Cultural at Blackbaud, and Kevin Russell is Professional Service that's a plural, Professional Services Manager at Blackbaud. He delivers multiple services professionally. Amy, Kevin, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for taking time on a very busy day.
No problem.
Your seminar topic is pretty curious. Make your online ticket sales soar with television and radio for free. Amy, why don't you just acquaint us generally with what the possibilities are?
Oh, sure. Well, I think the thing that people need to understand is that I have 12 years in background in TV, so I was the general sales manager of the TV station. So what I did was I actually set the pricing, and I'd look at the avails, and I sold the inventory and things like that. And what people most often thought that they could come into the building and say, well, I know by law you have to give me free advertising, and you don't. By NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, we do not have to sell to any certain group, which covers nonprofits. So I think one of the things that people need to understand is that they don't owe you anything. However, a lot of times they would come in very entitled at times and say, here's what I need you to do, and here's my PSA, and I want it on the air, and I'd prefer it in the news, and if not, Prime's okay. Well, that would get them nowhere. So the thing that I would always say is first and foremost, you have to figure out what to leverage on the nonprofit side that you can take to the TV stations. And there are a lot of different ways to do it, and I sort of have a few tips and tricks, but one of the things is to figure out who in the TV station you can get to know. And one of them is your general manager, and one of them is your general sales manager. And you have to explain to them that you have brand equity that they can leverage and also make money from.
Oh, so not unlike fundraising, we're actually going to build some relationships.
In theory, yes.
Okay.
So for those organizations who picked up the phone and called me, set an appointment, it was amazing how many of those actually got on the air.
And that was maybe before they even needed something from you or wanted something from you?
Correct.
Oh, this is relationship building.
It is 101.
Okay.
So a couple things is they need to figure out, I think there are 3 different ways nonprofits can get on TV and or radio for free. One, they need to look at their board. They need to figure out who is on the board and what companies those board members own and or are highly influential within.
Okay, we'll have time to go into detail. Why don't you tick them off, the other 2 now, and then we'll come back and talk about each in a little more detail. 3
ways. You can either have the board jump in and pay for that TV time, okay, not on your dime. The other one is to have the TV underwrite you, and I'll get more into the detail later.
Yep.
And then the other one is to work jointly with each other and bring in a sponsor on your own.
Okay, Kevin, you want to say a little more about the first one, looking to your board, working with your board?
Sure. So as you mentioned, this is relationship building, and we all know people who know people. In the local market, it is likely that one of your board members does have a relationship with the television station, maybe an economic relationship, maybe they know someone who's there. And if they're already engaged in advertising buys, this is more Amy's forte than mine, then you could piggyback on that relationship. And they might make a buy in the station, and you might leverage that and say, well, we're going to make this $5,000 buy, but the nonprofit is going to get advertising on top of that. So maybe not a condition, but if I do this, then please help this organization I work
does
with.
everything we're talking about today include radio also?
It's an and/or.
Either one?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I could jump off of what Kevin was saying, for example, if somebody on the board had a huge car dealership that the TV station was already gaining $30,000, $40,000 a month from, well, guess what? I need to make that board member exceptionally happy. So when that board member calls me and says, oh, by the way, I'm involved with this children's charity, what I want you to do is help underwrite that in the tune of $5,000. You better believe most times, more often than not, that TV and or radio station will figure out a way how to make that happen.
Okay.
Therefore, the nonprofit gets all the advertising for free.
Now, you had also mentioned having the board pay for buys. Look at me. I feel like
You got it.
Guys, I'm already.
You got
I got the language down. I'm certified.
Yeah. So the other thing, what you can do is you can have them leverage it in with their media buy. For example, go back to the car dealer. I own a car dealership. I'm coming in. I'm spending $30,000. Well, if I go ahead and guarantee you that I'm going to do that for, let's say, 5 months, and I get a high percent of that share, then I will also say, well, and in return for just handing you $150,000, you're going to hand my nonprofit of choice an additional $5,000 on top of that at no charge.
Okay. Yes.
So
Yeah.
you can leverage who you have on your board and what they own and or have influence around.
Sure. And this is not unlike what we might do if we're doing our research for grant making. We're leveraging the board's relationship, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
We're looking at the board members who are on the foundations that we've identified that are funding the type of work we're trying to fund, and we share a list of board members of those foundations with our own board.
Exactly.
We're just leveraging. Okay, Amy, you had said something earlier about what the charity brings to the outlet.
Sure.
Beyond a relationship with a board member,
Sure.
in trying to create this relationship that we want to have on our own, charity to media outlet.
Sure.
Why don't you say a little more about what we should be presenting to,
Okay.
to the outlets?
So, for example, there's a tremendous amount of brand equity within each nonprofit, and you better believe that TV and or radio station wants to partner with those nonprofits. For example, a stage company. They want access to their patrons. They want access to that brand equity they have in the market, and they also want access to those sponsoring that organization. So, in a way that you can leverage, or for example, let's keep going with that stage company, for example. So they can leverage that stage company's organization and work together on promotions. They also want to get their news anchors out in the market. So what they can do is they can say, okay, well, we'll come in with a partnership with you, but our anchors are also going to open up every show. They're going to welcome the audience. See, they're looking for different ways to get out in the market as well and own that market. And so if you give them the ability to leverage their brand equity, they're on top of it.
Okay, and Kevin, it sounds like this applies in all size media markets.
It certainly would.
And maybe even more easily in smaller markets where the community is more tight.
Essentially, and we have, Amy and I work primarily with cultural organizations, so they have these physical places, they've got spaces, they're community centers where people congregate, so when the talent goes out, there might be the opening of a brand new show, and it's a big event in the small community. So the on-air talent is a part of that community, and they want to show their face and be there. So it does scale pretty well. The larger markets, you'll have larger organizations.
Yeah, okay, but and another point, I guess certainly related, is we're not going to the outlets humbly, right? I mean, we're going confidently. As Amy said, we have equity that we can leverage.
That's right.
For your benefit, right? I mean, we're not asking hat in hand.
No, and that's the one thing that I found, that if and when they did, some organizations actually pick up the phone, explain to me what their mission is, what they want to accomplish, it was almost in it was not in the way probably it should have been.
Almost apologetic.
It is. It is, and I know you don't have time. And you know what? It doesn't work.
Doesn't go well.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, we don't approach donors that way.
Correct.
I'm sorry to have to ask you. It probably doesn't merit your time, but could you talk to me? We don't.
Could you run my spot at 3:00 in the morning, please?
Yeah,
Right.
I'd be grateful for that. We don't talk to funders that way. We should be confident that we've got the equity as you described, Amy. Okay. TV underwriting. Kevin, can you say something about that?
Actually, Amy could probably speak better than that than I can. That's her background, not mine.
Okay, go ahead.
I think you're referencing probably the third point, which is sort of a joint relationship between the nonprofit and if you don't have somebody on the board and or organization that can help underwrite from the nonprofit stand, then what you can do is that if somebody came into my office as a general sales manager and said, hey, listen, I don't have $5,000 and I don't have this. However, what I want to do is I have this kind of equity to give you, and let's use that together and go and find that sponsor and or donor together. So it is going to be the nonprofit, it's going to be the TV station, and then they go out. The TV station now has the ability to engage their anchors and the nonprofit. And you better believe that those TV and or radio stations want to look like a hero and want to have their involvement in that. So you've provided that. And then the TV station also has a brand new advertiser, right? So if you go out and work together to come up with this, it is no money out of the nonprofits budget whatsoever. It's out of the sponsors, and now you've created a three-prong relationship that typically will go for years. And sort of a side note, for what we did at the TV station, they almost got a 4-to-1 return on investment. You hand me $5,000, I'm going to give you back close to 20.
Why don't you just tell us what TV station you're referring to? Let's keep it a mystery. Come on.
It's in the Charleston, South Carolina market. Let's just put it at that.
Fine. Charleston, South Carolina. All right. I'm sorry. So I interrupted you. Anything
That's
more
right.
you want to say about this sort of working together, a little joint? Sort of a little joint venture.
Well, all I will say is that every single day we all sort of do the same. We're trying to come up with revenue. We're trying to meet our budgets, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit. And if somebody walked in my door and said, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to help you make money and work with you in order to get new advertisers and sponsors, I'm going to listen to you.
Yeah.
And then because I control the inventory, I'm also going to then play with you in terms of getting you additional avails, additional spots and things, and some news coverage.
Okay. So now I fear my notes from the top are insufficient. I blended two things together. So there's one more point. Kevin, were there three things that Amy outlined in the beginning and only two that we've talked about?
Well, there are three that Amy outlined on the getting these basically ads for free, but part of it's also what are we going to do with it, right? Being very strategic with how you use it. It's the other part of our session, which is what are we going to do with this time? In the cultural world, we're suggesting that people should use this time that we get through Amy's strategies to really promote ticket sales over other items and primarily promote those online.
Okay. Why do you select ticket sales over anything else that a charity might convey?
So radio and television, we believe, are really the ultimate one-to-many channel. When you're on the internet, you can develop a relationship. People sort of know who you are. You're signing into things. Direct mail, if you're already in a not-for-profits database, they know who you are. But when we're on TV or radio, it's essentially an acquisition strategy or a branding strategy. So these organizations, these local culture organizations, they may use these buys for branding. If they're not going to do that, they're in acquisition mode, and we want to direct them to buy tickets. For our orgs, the ticket really is that entry into the organization. We wouldn't expect someone to hear an ad and go make a donation to a museum necessarily. They don't have a relationship. They haven't experienced that museum. But buying that first ticket, getting through the door, is what starts that process with those sorts of organizations. So driving to that ticket leverages the free items in acquisition, which generally has sort of the most trouble getting people through the door.
Okay, maybe this is also the lowest cost entry point for acquiring new.
That's right.
New donors, new supporters.
Absolutely. That single ticket. It might not be the ultimate lowest cost. Often our organizations have memberships that over time would represent a better value, but in the moment, it tends to be the lower cost. And some of these places are free, and they're just trying to encourage attendance. So it could be a free entrance. We just need to know you're out there, know you want to come.
Amy, you're doing a lot of nodding. Did you want to add to something?
No, I'm for once agreeing everything what Kevin is saying.
Okay. Well, you want to share something you don't?
No, it's all good.
Okay. Very furtive you work like. Charlotte area. And, Kevin says everything right except the things I don't want to tell him about. Okay. We have a few more minutes left. What have I not asked you about regarding your topic that you want to share with arts and culture organizations? Go ahead, Kevin.
So I don't know that it's something you haven't asked about, but we just want to let people know that there are ways to get your message out there, and we want our organizations to really think about what they want their customers to do. We get focused on fundraising, we get focused on membership. We often forget that we need to recharge our donor base, our member base with new people. If we can do that for free and take advantage of this fantastic technology that everybody's engaged in, we want people not to be afraid to go do it when they go to do it, do it the right way, use Amy's strategies.
All right, and it sounds like that's sort of what motivates you around all this work. I mean,
Absolutely.
I could explicitly ask, what do you love about the work that you're doing?
So I get to work with museums, cultural organizations, people who have fantastic art or, help children learn every single day. And my job is to bring software into these organizations so that they can use it to increase all of that. So bringing in that first ticket buyer, that first-time ticket buyer, is the end result of everything that I do.
I love that, and leveraging technology as well.
It's fantastic.
To help the Children's Touch Museum.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amy, how about you? Share what you love about this work.
Well, believe it or not, everything that Kevin said, but what I want to message is there is an opportunity there, and I think automatically the nonprofits think, I don't have the budget, I can't afford TV, I can't afford a radio. Now, if you're in the top 5, 10 market, that may be the case. This is probably a mid-market to lower market strategy.
Okay.
However, there's opportunity there, and I have seen it, and I've worked for 12 plus years with nonprofits when I was at the TV station to help them do this. And I think I would just say, be bold, pick up the phone, get a relationship, explain your mission, and work together, and you will absolutely reap the rewards on this, and it's there to happen.
Their session at BBCon is Make Your Online Ticket Sales Soar with television and radio for free. I think they've shared some outstanding ways of doing that, really very simple, common sense, but things that people are not certainly not doing, and because they're not aware. Mm-hmm. Amy Spencer and Kevin Russell, thank you very much for being guests.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks.
This is Tony Martignetti, nonprofit radio coverage of BBCon 2012. Thanks very much for being with me.